welcome to the Basketball Addicts Podcast, the one podcast in the world that answers the only question that ever truly mattered in the world. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we might have some famine, might have some of this, some of that, but how can you hear from outside the finals? You can't even get in. How can you hear from outside the finals when you can't even get in? And that is exactly where we're going to go today, because we're going to be talking about free agency. We're coming at you live, talking about the free agency. We missed a couple weeks. You know, things happen in our lives. You know what I mean? We're all human here. We're back at it to deliver some of the best basketball content you probably will ever hear. We heard it here first. We're talking free agency. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about some of the Dame rumors, like, oh, he wants to go to Miami, but Portland may not allow him to go there because he's not restricted. He doesn't have a trade clause, so he doesn't really control his destiny, but he's trying to. We're going to talk about the Cavaliers getting better. We're going to talk about the Warriors getting Chris Paul. We're going to talk about Memphis getting Marcus Smart and Boston leaving Marcus Smart alone and getting Kristaps Porzingis. We're going to talk about all of that today. Yeah. So get ready for an exciting episode here. Jason, you got anything you want to say to the listeners before we get going?
No. Thank you guys for listening, and strap in. We're also going to be covering that new play-in tournament. Not that play-in tournament, mid-season tournament that actually got announced as well after all this free agency stuff, which is going to be crazy. I never would have thought in a million years that would be real, but here we are.
So is that where you want to start at? You want to start with the tournament?
Let's go free agency first.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. So let me ask you, Jason.
Yes.
And this is the question that everybody wants to know, right?
Okay.
Besides how you can emphasize the finals you can't get in, is who do you think up until this point won free agency? Give me like the top 5 teams who you think won free agency.
Okay, top 5 teams that won free agency. Try to make sure before I say it that they're one. Let me see here. Five. Oh, okay, it's down to those two. Okay, the team that won free agency, in my opinion, is the Lakers. They're the first winner. There's a few that did really well that were thinking about one, and then I saw the Lakers on the list, and I was like, yep, that's number one. So the ability they re-signed Jared Vanderbilt to a 1-year, $4.7 million. They did lose Troy Brown, who's a 3-and-D rotational forward, to the Timberwolves, but they also gained Taurean Prince, who's a 3-and-D small forward from the Minnesota Timberwolves. They literally just swapped rotational bodies. Getting Jackson Hayes. There's a really athletic rotational center that, flashed the ability to shoot the 3 and stuff like that. And getting D'Lo to a really cheap 2-year, $37 million deal was nice. They got Austin Reeves to a 4-year, $56 million. They got Rui Hachimura on a 3-year, $51 million. And they got Cam Reddish on a 2-year deal. They may have lost Mo Bamba and lost Dennis Schroeder for a 2-year, $26, and they lost Lonnie Walker. They lost Malik Beasley as well. But when we think about the Lakers, you got to give a ton of credit for Jeanie Buss, because there's no way in this world that they aren't paying a ton of money in the luxury tax.
Oh, for sure.
They did a great job with Austin Reeves. He is going to be so good. And what they really did is I think everybody realized, if you're a real LeBron James fan, that he lost a gear in the playoffs. He has a cap on how many points per game he can score in the playoffs and how much, time he can handle the ball and stuff like that. Like, he can be an extremely efficient 25 like he was in the playoffs, and maybe next year he's an extremely efficient 23 points per game. Right? The decrease will happen, but they found success with having ball handlers that can get buckets, not named LeBron, right? And using them in a lot in pick and rolls. And re-signing Austin Reeves, who was so good in that role. Re-signing D'Lo, who was so good in that role. Re-signing Jared Vanderbilt, who is such a key defensive player. And they also added Jalen Hood-Schifino in the draft, so they added into this pick and roll depth, right? And for them to also somebody that they've received as well was Gabe Vincent, who was a 3-year, $33 million contract. So Gabe Vincent just won an NBA championship. He's extremely good in the pick and roll. He's also a guy that can be a high volume ball handler, and you can get good buckets from. And on top of that, what's really big with Gabe Vincent is they didn't have a single guy last year that was like, okay, this is our guard defender. Now they have a guy with Gabe Vincent that can be that guard defender when he's in the game. He'll guard the the other team's best player, and that's really big. So they have a really great 4-guard rotation. They were able to keep Rui Hachimura and keep Austin Reeves and sign Cam Reddish, who's a high upside guy. What I really love about it is they have so many. Like, let's list them off: Austin Reeves, D'Lo, Rui Hachimura, Cam Reddish, and Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trey Murphy. 6 guys. 2 of them were drafted. They have 6 guys that still have clear upside to be gained, right? They still have the ability to grow and to be able to score more points per game and be more effective and grow their game and become a better passers, right? Like, they're still younger guys. And I like the fact that the Lakers said, we're going to take, instead of just believing in one guy, let's say, they just only resigned Austin Reeves, that's a young guy, and we're just betting everything on him to improve. They bet on 6 guys to improve, right? And I really like that. I really like the fact that they took multiple shots. Also, Jackson Hayes is in that list, but he's not like, oh, wow, I hope he improves as a scorer. No, he's not really going to be able to score. It's the hope that he'll reach his potential defensively. He's a really good, really gifted athlete. So, this makes a lot of sense. I feel like this was the right kind of moves. You got to give a ton of credit for their GM. I can't Rob Pelinka for signing the right kind of guys, getting those ball handlers, getting guys that have the potential to be scorers and to grow more within their game. So, really love what they did. So, I'd have Lakers number 1, man. What do you think about the Lakers?
Oh, for sure. Lakers without a doubt. Anything that makes the Lakers better and LeBron closer to winning the chip, or at least winning, and getting far into the playoffs, I'm all for it. I see it more like, so I'm going to start here with, the drafting and everything like that. So Jalen Hood-Schifino and Maxwell Lewis are 2 great pickups for sure for the Lakers. I mean, you get a young, hungry talent such as Jalen Hood-Schifino who can score, put the ball on the floor. You have Maxwell Lewis who can also score and defend. So it's like, you're getting better. You building for the future as well. And then you sign, instead of going out and getting, I think the Lakers used to be like I think the youngest player was like 30 at one point. Now we have, a lot of young rising stars such as Austin Reeves, you know what I mean? D'Lo's he's not a spring chicken, but he's still pretty young. You know what I think? He's like 27, 28. You know what I mean? A lot of young players who, can go, who have a little bit more fresher legs, who can, hit those ceilings and really go and get a bucket. And it makes it better for LeBron because LeBron can go back into like more of his natural game.
Yeah.
And when I say natural game is what I mean is like LeBron has always been a pass first guy. Always. So when he has the ball in his hand and he's able to manipulate defenses is when he's at his best. But he's always been able to hit that gear and to go into takeover mode and, you know what I mean, and drop 30, 40 and so on and so forth. But you're absolutely right with the fact of him getting a little bit older. He has lost the gear, so he's not able to do that. So when he's able to he looks around the court and he can, okay, I could pass here. I know these guys can go get a bucket when we need it. Then now he can come back into his natural game. And I think that also a great pickup, outside of, the draft, I believe the best pickup that they have right now, and I'm going to say this in terms of Anthony Davis, is Jackson Hayes. I think that's a perfect pickup because he's more of a natural center. You know what I mean? He's kind of on the tall side. He can defend. He's a shot blocker as well. that kind of AD really doesn't like to play the center position a lot. So I can see that with the Jackson Hayes ad, that allows him to come back into, maybe a power forward position and kind of stretch and be like a stretch forward a little bit more. And maybe if he wants to, he could put the ball on the floor and drive, but he doesn't really have to sit and clog the paint. So I think that's also great for AD, especially if, as long as he's working out this summer and getting back healthy and stuff like that. Cam Reddish also a great pickup. I think that he'll be great for the Lakers. And they did lose some shooting. I will say that they lost Malik Beasley. That's kind of a hit, but I think with the guards that they have, the 4-guard rotation that you pointed out, I think that's a great start. Going forward, especially with these guys are going to grow together. They're with LeBron. I think that this team going forward will be better. Especially because they've had a year together already. I mean, everybody outside of like who they just drafted and traded for, but they've had a year together. So, and then Darvin Ham, I think that he's a pretty decent, okay coach. So I think that he'll be able to kind of incorporate everybody slowly in there after they throw out a couple lineups that may or may not work. Then he'll figure it out as the season goes on. He's really good at what is it called? Adjustments. He's really good at adjustments. So
true.
I would say Lakers are number one for sure. I just like their pickups. I like the Jackson Hayes one because that gives AD some wiggle room. You know what I mean, to step down a little bit and maybe play a little bit more power forward than center. And I do like the guard pickups because now you can spread the floor even more, and everybody who you just picked up can go get a bucket. So now you don't really have to rely on LeBron looking around like that. Who do I pass to? It's only me and Austin Reeves. You know what I mean? Because they had something. They figured it out, and they figured it out last trade deadline before the All-Star, or is it after the All-Star break? Before the All-Star break, when they got D'Lo, Malik Beasley, Vando, and Lonnie Walker. They figured it out. It was like, wow, a team like that can go far. Then they just made it better. So I think that they're looking at possible deep run in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like that's definitely a good point. All right, you ready to transition?
Let's rock it.
All right, so number 2 on the list, I would go with the hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Okay, so just to run through what they did, they gained Caris LeVert, 2-year, $32 million contract. Max Strus got a 4-year, $63 million. They got George Niang for a 3-year, $26 million. They got Damian Jones, who's a very athletic backup center. They got Ty Jerome, 2-year, $5 million. They lost Cedi Osman for 1 year, $6.7 million. Lamar Stevens, Robin Lopez. But what the Cavs did, man, was phenomenal from the sense of a basketball sense, because last year in those playoffs, there was 2 major issues. And they both relate to one situation. Was their small forward, I think it was Lamar Stevens, or some other small forward that was just mostly a defensive guy. The other teams helped off to an extreme degree. We're going to say, we're going to let this guy beat us. It's because we are going to do anything to get the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's and Darius Garland's hands in the playoffs, especially Donovan Mitchell. So they desperately needed a small forward that could keep that defense honest and not allow for gimmicky defenses to shut down and slow down the Cleveland Cavaliers offense. Max Strus is exactly that. He's 6'7". I understand he played small shooting guard at Miami. I don't think people really understand. Max Strus is a legit 6'7", right? Shoots the poo out of the ball. Also, he's an above average to good defender, right? And part of his good defending is high effort and great coaching, right? Like, he doesn't have the kind of body and athletic gifts that, like, oh man, this guy's gonna be a great defender. It was mostly coaching, effort, and length that allowed him to be a good defender in Miami, right? Well, at Cleveland, we got JB Bickerstaff, who everybody defends. It doesn't matter if you're a starter, doesn't matter if you're a bench guy. Like, think about a guy like Karis LeVert, who I never saw defend a single possession in my life before JB Bickerstaff gets there. And then you go watch him play, and you're like, wow, Karis LeVert really defends now. JB Bickerstaff forces everybody to defend. That's their identity. So there's no issue of, oh man, Max Strus might not be pushed as much. He might not be held as to a high of a standard. Yeah, that's JB Bickerstaff. JB is going to make that happen, right? And he's going to fit so perfectly at that small forward. It's also going to allow them to, if they use it, to allow them to give that defense another thing to worry about, because on top of him being a shooter, he's really phenomenal coming off ball screens and pin down screens and being off ball and running them through actions where he can curl and, you know what I mean, and get some efficient points and keep that defense focused, especially on the weak side. So it adds a new layer, if used, to their offense that could also really be a nice change up to the Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, ridiculously efficient pick and roll, right?
Yeah.
So they, through that, they added two things to their team, and by doing that, they negated the weakness and got a guy that can fit their defensive formula, right? So I love that pickup. And another thing that, you know, so on top of those small forward not being able to shoot, another guy that left midway through the season really hurt them 3-point shooting wise, that led them in the playoffs to be a below average-ish 3-point shooting team, was Kevin Love. Kevin Love, throughout the halfway through the season, was doing a really great job off the bench, being a spacing power forward. It was really great because the Cleveland Cavaliers, on top of the defense, believe in size. They love starting Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. They're huge, and when Jared Allen's off the floor, usually Evan Mobley's their center in there, and you know what I mean? Them having a guy and them having Kevin Love was really great because he spaced the floor. He'd be 6'8". He does the intangible things of being a big, you know what I mean? Good screen setter, good rebounder, right? And it really added to the team fitting well together. Well, Kevin Love left midway through the season. They let go of his contract. They waived him. So they did a really good signing of Georges Niang. Georges Niang can shoot the poo out the ball. He's a power forward. He can post. He can rebound well. He's a really great screen setter. So that really was a phenomenal bench signing. I really love what they did. And getting Karis LeVert for that money was great. They definitely need to retain him. He definitely has a high upside to be a ridiculously elite sixth man in the NBA. He just needs to become more consistent. Sometimes he shows up and he drops 32. Sometimes he shows up and drops 6. We need a little bit more of just him dropping 16. But he has the potential to be that, right? He has high upside. He just needs to be more consistent day to day. But he definitely was worth the signing, right? And he's still a younger guy. So getting Damian Jones as well as a highly athletic rotational center really adds to their depth. Because last year it was kind of Robin Lopez and he was really slow and they couldn't really play him. So now they have another option at center. You know what I mean? Tyler Jerome's a pretty solid rotational guard. It's not like they added a lot there, but they didn't lose much. Cedi Osman really didn't get a lot of minutes from them. Lamar Stevens was the small forward that was a good defender. Really couldn't shoot very well, but you know, I really think that the Cavs got that missing piece with Max Strus, and they got him on a good deal. Like 4 years, $63 million, not much for Max Strus. Think about Duncan Robinson. He got like a $4 million, $100 million deal, right? 4 year, $100 million.
Yeah.
Like Duncan Robinson's a similar type of player. Honestly, he doesn't defend as well, but he's like paid, right? So them getting Strus on this deal was amazing. So you got to give the Cavs a ton of credit. This is the kind of move that I legitimately think that in about 2 years, they could be pushing for an NBA title because they have the formula to give other teams issues if their young players develop and grow and become veterans, right? And that is the two bigs. Those two bigs, those two 7-footers that has the potential to give Joel Embiid a lot of issues. It has the potential to give Milwaukee Bucks and all their length and their ability to defend that length a lot of issues. So if Evan Mobley is able to hit his potential, there's gonna come a point in time whenever that does happen, and Karis LeVert becomes more consistent. This team can win a ring, and Max Strus is a younger guy as well. I mean, nobody that's a starter on the Cleveland Cavaliers is like older than 26 or 27, right? So
yeah.
It's great. It's a great young core, and I'm so excited about it.
Oh, for sure. Cavs has really dug into that. Okay, we're going to be young. We're going to be athletic. We're going to be, defend. We're going to be great defenders and stuff like that. They've really dug into that identity. So I think that these pickups are awesome, especially with Max Strus. You already hit the nail on the head with, he's coming from Miami with that, that culture of that hard nosed defense that play every minute of every game, and especially with his shooting and his scoring ability as well. But I do want to say that we just also got George Niang, who's also a great 3-point shooter as well. So we've really looked at what we did wrong last year.
Mm-hmm.
And improved upon it this year. So, like you said, 2 years tops. I could see them, moving into NBA title range. You know what I mean? As one of those young teams, as homegrown built, and going for an NBA title. I can definitely see that coming in the near future as well. I just like the team now. I mean, I think that one thing that we did deal with a lot last year, and I think that was injuries. We dealt with a lot of injuries, especially with Jared Allen. He was hurt, and then he wasn't the same when they came back to the Knicks. And when we lost to the Knicks, he wasn't playing. So when we beat the Knicks, he was playing. Then in the playoffs, he just wasn't ready because he just kind of came back from injury. So he wasn't the same player. We didn't have anybody who really could throw out there besides Mobley. I mean, Mobley he's getting there, but Damian Jones, I think he can really really kind of step into that role of, okay, listen, if Jared Allen isn't there, I can back up. I can be the shot blocker. I can be the lob threat. This can be me. So I think that that's a very critical point that they hit on, because we're not really center focused, but when our center isn't playing at his best, then we definitely don't look like the same team anymore when we can't guard the rim.
Yeah.
So because he's definitely a focal point of our defenses too. So I think that they definitely, like I said, they looked at last year, like, okay, look, Jared Allen was hurt. We haven't really been able to, you know what I mean? When he's not there, we can't really defend that well. So we need somebody else who we can stick in that spot, you know what I mean? So that we could just keep going like it's normal, like it's every day at work. So, and then we definitely added a lot of shooting, a lot of scoring. Karis LeVert is also a big pickup. Like you said, he can sometimes go for 30, sometimes he can go for 2, but he's a solid defender.
Yeah.
And he can score. He has that ceiling. But what we need to do is we need to create more consistency. So hopefully he'll be able to create more consistency and kind of range within that 15, 16, maybe 17, 19 range of points per game, and then we will be a solid team from then on. Because I think we became really reliant on the Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland pick and roll. So I think this allows the floor to be spaced a little bit more, and we did get rid of Shetty Osman. He signed somewhere else. I think that's also good because he had the proverbial green light. I watched several Cavs games where he was just chucking up threes, and I'm like, he's not that great of a 3-point shooter, but this is all you have to depend on. Then I can see why. But now you have Max Strus, so you can give him the green light. George Niang, you can give him the green light, and they're going to knock down more threes than Shetty Osman will. So now you look like a way better team, more of a threat offensively, and then you even look like a threat defensively as well. So I cannot wait to see what this team looks like going into the season. I'll definitely be getting some tickets.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, you ready to kick it to the next team?
Let's go.
All right, the next team up, the third ranked team, is the Dallas Mavericks for me, man. I mean, first things first.
Interesting.
Getting Kyrie back for 3 years, 126. I like it. They also signed Seth Curry as well on a 2-year deal.
Bring him back. Yeah.
Good 3-point shooting guard. Dwight Powell, who was very much the key small ball big that they like to run out when they run their small ball lineup. Getting Dante Exum, getting him another shot in the NBA. No guarantees that that's going to stick. They got Grant Williams, 4 years, $54 million. They lost 2 second-round draft picks. They lost Reggie Bullock in a 2030 pick swap. Probably a first-round pick swap. But this, for me, is pretty obvious. This is about, adding Steph Curry, adding the guard 3-point shooting's nice. Them retaining Dwight Powell, who, was a big reason why they beat the Utah Jazz a few years ago when Luka and Jason Kidd and that team made it really far into the playoffs. That small ball lineup with Dwight Powell was extremely important, so retaining him was extremely important as that option. And Grant Williams. Grant Williams is the reason why he is a 6'5", 3-point shooting, defending 1 through 4 at an extremely high level. 4 years, $54 million, worth every dollar on the Dallas Mavericks. Because they had the weakness of defensively they suck. Let's be honest about this. They were by far the worst defense in the NBA. And when you gain a phenomenal world-class defender like Grant Williams, if I had to say greatest defender in the NBA, what would Grant Williams be? I'd say 25 to 35. He's legitimately a very elite defender. And those highly elite defenders can get you very, very far. And he's going to be able to guard the best teams forward. And on top of that, the man shoots like 38, 40% for the 3-point line. Right? So, that's phenomenal. It allows them to find a piece that, where they have enough spacing where maybe their forward doesn't even need to shoot threes because you have Grant Williams, right? Like, they definitely added a lot there, and I think with the pieces of the draft of Derek Lively, who's a really good center, 7'1", can shot block, was in the lottery, can rebound, can screen set, and them adding 26th pick a guy from Marquette who I comped, Jay Crowder. Even though the 3-point shot is not fully along yet, this team did make the steps to becoming possibly a team that could be in the 4 and 5 seed, right? Just with Grant Williams, just because of how phenomenal he is and all the pieces that they got, right? Christian Wood has not signed yet, so maybe they do retain him. Maybe they don't. I don't know yet. He's by far the biggest prospect that's still out there in free agency. But yeah, I feel like what Dallas did here, phenomenal. I love what they did. They also didn't they made the right choice by re-signing Kai. They made the right choice by being the best pitch for Kyrie. Because this team does have the potential to win the NBA championship if built around correctly. And they took the first steps very correctly with Grant Williams. He's a key piece. So I'm glad about this.
Yeah. I want to say something, though. Like, I think not last time we talked, but I believe when Kyrie first signed to the Dallas Mavericks, and I believe we were talking, I think this might have been an episode, and he was like, Mark Cuban is the kind of owner who will roll out the Brinks truck to keep Kyrie. And, and was it 3 years, $126 million? Yeah. I see what you mean.
He's paid. But it's not a full max, though. It's not a full 5-year deal. So the Dallas retains some, optionality.
Yeah, so, it's actually a smart deal, but it's also a good deal for both sides. Yeah, exactly. Because I was reading into his deal, so he has $120 million, that's guaranteed. But then the $6 million is incentive. So it's based on, games played, in games won and stuff like that. So he has the $6 million is incentivized. So he really only gets $120 million guaranteed. But if they win games and performs well, then he'll get the $6 million. So it's actually a really good one because you got the 3 years, and if you don't like it, then you kind of can option them out and then put them on the trade block and then trade them out and then get something else. So it's actually a really smart deal. But I think that right there, retaining Kyrie, putting him next to Luka, giving them another year together, even though he was going around a free agency. I think that might have just been more like a ploy to kind of try to get some more money out of Dallas, knowing that he was pretty much going to stay there because I didn't really see him. I wanted to see. I mean, I was thinking maybe he would leave, but then I was thinking I don't really see him leaving because I mean, for reasons I was I don't really see him leaving. Really, it was if he go to Phoenix, I wouldn't like basketball anymore because I wouldn't want to see that. Yeah. So it just wouldn't make sense. But Yeah, so and then also I think you hit the nail on the head with the Grant Williams thing. He's been known to be able to, defend the best player, defend 1 through 4, you know what I mean? He's like 6'5", and he
Yeah.
can shoot the lights out the basketball when, so that adds a lot of depth to their team, especially because I'm pretty sure he's going to start. So it adds a lot of depth in the team. And then we have Luka, who's like this phenomenal ball handler. You know what I mean? Can pass the ball like nobody else.
Yeah.
And just gives them more weapons and more people to depend on. Slowly but surely, I like what they're doing because they've built a team away from, okay, we got our team consists of Luka and Tim Hardaway Jr. They moved away from that. So I am like beyond happy that their team no longer looks like that. They got Kyrie, they got Grant Williams. They're slowly starting to build a championship contender, and we know Dallas can do that. This is a team that's been there before, who has won before, so they know how to build a championship contender.
Yeah.
And I think that they're learning how to do one in the modern age. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. This is a team that can push for 4 or 5. This is going to be another exciting team to watch. I think the 3 teams that we just talked about, the Lakers, the Cavs, and now Dallas, these are the 3 teams that's going to be really fun to watch going in, especially when we see that mid-season tournament as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. All right, you ready to kick it to the next team?
Let's go.
All right, the number 4 team's a little bit under the radar. New York Knicks. Okay, so they re-signed Josh Hart 1 year, $12.9 million. They got a second round draft pick from a trade, and they got Dante DiVincenzo 4 year, $50 million. They lost Derrick Rose. They lost Obi Toppin. Derrick Rose got a 2-year deal, and that's it. So the New York Knicks, they got hot last year. And they got hot for a specific reason, and that was after trading for Josh Hart. Josh Hart was a perfect fit as their rotational guard, the first guy to come off the bench. They don't have another guy that can defend at that guard position. He can shoot threes. He's extremely important to their team. He definitely was a very important puzzle piece. And another very important puzzle piece that they found success with is having RJ Barrett at the 3, having Julius Randle at the 4, having Jalen Brunson at the 2. And, even though they used to have RJ Barrett at the 2, they really found success offensively with him at the 3. And they used Quentin Grimes as their 2, right? But Quentin Grimes in the playoffs wasn't really able to produce much. He also in the regular season wasn't doing much anyway. Emmanuel Quickley does really great things as a rotational guard. So them adding Dante DiVincenzo, who is, with the Bucks used to have moments where he'd be starting for them, right? For a few years there. Like, he is a really good 3-point shooter. He can shot great. He's extremely consistent in the playoffs. He just showed you the Golden State, right? This is the kind of guy that can be he's an upgrade to that 2 guard offensively. So it's going to allow them to operate better offensively, give more spacing for Jalen Brunson, allow them to get more scoring from that 2 guard position, to allow RJ Barrett to do his thing at the 3, and to allow Julius Randle to have the spacing at the 4. This team did make improvements. This team is going to be a better team than they were last year. These may be smaller moves, but this was improvements at things that they found success with last year, because they got a lot of scoring from the guard position, but they came up a little bit short in the postseason, especially against the Miami Heat, from the guard position, from guys not named. Like Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle had really good series against the Miami Heat. Everybody else really didn't show up. So getting a guy that trust in the playoffs, an upgrade at that 2 guard position, really happy about it. They have a really good rotation with him and Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes. That's a lot of depth there. And Obi Toppin didn't bring him much, right? He was more of a, when he's in the game, he wants to try to show himself off. And when he's in the game, that they're just going to make him beat them with the shooting. Try to make Obi Toppin beat us. And, it makes sense to move off of him and get some sort of shooting forward of some sort, right? So, yeah, I think they made the right moves here. I'm glad about it, and the Knicks are going to be better than what they were last year.
Oh, without a doubt, they're going to be better than what they were this year. Because they add, like I said, they added Dante DiVincenzo, so now they've gotten really deep at the guard position as well with the point guard, shooting guard. Especially with Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes. They've all gotten a lot better. Even with if they wanted to move maybe RJ, they kind of found a good spot with him at the 4. But as far as the guards, I mean, I think that's like the best they can do. Especially when they could possibly throw out like Josh Hart, you know what I mean, and maybe Dante DiVincenzo, because they all have a connection. They've known each other because they used to play in college together,
Villanova,
especially with
yeah.
Jalen Brunson, the
Won a ring
Villanova
there. Yeah.
Wildcats connection. They won a ring, so they bring in that chemistry back to New York, especially. So I think there's gonna be another one that's gonna be fun to watch. I like the pickup of Dante DiVincenzo, especially because you said, like I said, you hit the nail on the head with the efficiency, the 3-point shooting, the shot creation. That's gonna be big for them because, like you said, in the playoffs, it kind of was like when they played against the Miami Heat, like you could depend on Jalen Brunson, but he didn't really have anybody else really outside of like RJ Barrett, like the guard position. The other guard was kind of like lacking for him.
Yeah.
So they was like, oh, and then Obi Toppin, of course, he can't really do much but dunk, so and drive to the hole a little bit. So
yeah.
I think moving off of them and getting better, and getting more shooting, bringing more shot creation into the team, I think that's going to be big for them going forward.
Yeah.
We already seen that the young team can go forward. I mean, can go at least into the second round with the team as currently constructed. And I think they could possibly make a push now. Depending on what the rest of the East looks like at the end of free agency, or maybe even before the All-Star break, they could possibly make a push.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna be a nice rivalry. I think that the New York Knicks and the Cavs are kind of creating. I'm gonna like to see it now that the Knicks also loaded up on weapons as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And even though they might not ever, maybe they'll never win a championship, but New York fans need to sit back and enjoy good basketball because that's what you can get next year.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to go to the 5th ranked team on this?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so the 5th ranked team is, man, I got 2 teams in my head that I'm still debating. Let's go with the Indiana Pacers. So the Indiana Pacers retained Tyrese Halliburton, 5-year, $260 million contract. Really like it. They overpaid this guy a lot, but they really needed his role. They paid Bruce Brown, the 2-guard rotational defender for the Denver Nuggets, 2 years and $45 million. One, is that an overpay? Yes, they really overpaid him. But they desperately needed a guard that could defend. And he's also a younger guy, so they can retain his contract. The Indiana Pacers are also one of those teams that suck at defending. They also gained Obi Toppin through trades, which I don't think he'll start over Jarace Walker, but they do need another forward body, and they do need a younger guy at that forward spot, rotational wise. He's still got high upside. He's just very raw. So, that was a good risk for a second-round draft pick. So I really like what Indiana did. They leveraged their money, freed their cap space to get good fits. And, you got to give credit where credit's due on that because they did a good job of
it. They do leverage the money really well. Now, I will say that Indiana, I would agree with them being like 5 because they spent a lot of money, right? They spent a lot of money on Tyrese Halliburton. They spent a lot of money on Bruce Brown, and they got Obi Toppin as well, but they lost Chris Duarte.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I would say kind of locking down their franchise. I would call them a winner because they clearly are going all in on Tyrese Halliburton. You know what I mean? And the young pieces that they have there. But they lost some key shooting, especially because like when Chris Duarte gets hot, I mean it's pretty much over. You can't really stop him at that point. And I'm not too against the signing of Bruce Brown. I think that adds another level of scoring, and maybe they thought they got better scoring, shot creation. So I'm okay with that. So I mean, like I said, I don't really think Indiana did anything too special this year as far as free agency. Like I said, they just locked down their franchise, which I'm okay with. I respect that. They see Tyrese Halliburton as their future going forward. I love it for them.
Yeah, I think they move off the Chris Duarte more about the future fit of trying to get a traditional small forward there, because when they drafted Chris Duarte, they didn't have Benedict Mathurin on the team. And I'm sure even the Indiana Pacers didn't expect Benedict Mathurin to be that good year one. So I think they're making the space for, because Chris Duarte is a 6'6" guy. Traditionally, if Tyrese Halliburton and if Benedict Mathurin was not on the team, Chris Duarte would be the 2 guard, right? So and he has real no defensive potential. It's all scoring wise. And even though scoring wise he would work with the team, defensively he just wouldn't be able to give you what you probably would want. And so I think they made space for Benedict Mathurin to be defined as a 2 guard, and them to in the future get their long-term small forward, which is probably going to come through next year's draft.
Yeah, true. And then they can make space. They don't have to pay two rookies. They can just pay Benedict Mathurin and then kind of slide in Tyrese Halliburton, and that'll be their duo.
Yeah.
So I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
That's what I think's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you want to just go team for team?
We can go losers.
Okay. Top 5 losers? Oh, okay.
We're top 3 losers. Top 3 losers. Let's make it a little harder. Top 3 losers.
Okay. My number 1 loser is the Toronto Raptors.
Yes.
What? Bro, first things first. They lost Fred VanVleet for a 3-year, $130 million deal. First things first.
Biggest one. Why would you do that?
Why wouldn't you pay the guy? Like every once in a while in sports, a guy who will be widely regarded as a great GM would just straight up lose his touch. And we've been slowly been like, okay, basketball wise, Scotty Barnes and Pascal don't fit, right? Like what are they smoking, right? Scotty Barnes needs to be a 4 and have the spacing around him, right? And last year we were like, why in the world are they not moving off of Fred VanVleet and Pascal and building with this young core? Okay, so if they wanted to be a very average basketball team and try to be in the play-ins and put on a respectable squad, then why in the world did they not pay Fred VanVleet? Like, what? This makes no sense, because if you were just gonna let him go anyway in free agency to a pretty, or maybe a little bit overpaid, I just don't want to look bad when I'm with my signings, because I'm Masai Ujiri and I gotta make my Masai Ujiri name always look good. Like, if you're gonna do that, then what the hell was the point of keeping him? Right? Because if you lose Fred VanVleet, then why in the world are you keeping Pascal too? Right? Like, because Pascal without Fred VanVleet, I don't care how much better the rest of the Toronto Raptors get, they're not going to the playoffs next year. Right? Yeah. And they added Dennis Schroeder? Dennis Schroeder? Who?
Strudel.
He's going to be their starting point guard? Bro, and the biggest overpay of the offseason is, which makes this hilarious because they didn't overpay for VanVleet. They paid Jakob Poeltl 4 years, $80 million for a guy who averages like 11 a game. He is not that much different than Cody Zeller, Miles Plumlee. Miles Plumlee got a 2-year, $5 million deal. Let's say that again. Miles Plumlee, who also started on a shitty team throughout most of the year, the Charlotte Hornets, starting center, got paid 2 years, $5 million. Very similar to Jakob Poeltl, who can't defend the rim, who doesn't do anything other than post, and not even a great lob threat, not even a world-class rebounder, not a great athletic guy. He's a very similar defensive center, very similar value as a center to a Miles Plumlee, who is starting for the San Antonio Spurs. Gets paid $80 million, 4 years, $80 million. Nikola Vucevic got 3 years, $60 million. So is Nikola Vucevic and Jakob Poeltl the same quality of center now? Oh, I didn't know Jakob Poeltl with the Orlando Magic could score 18 a game from the post. Oh, I didn't know Jakob Poeltl was a good passer. I didn't know Jakob Poeltl shoots 40% for the 3-point lead. Oh, no, he doesn't. Let me get that right. Oh, yeah. He's a bum as a starting center. Like, center-wise in the NBA, he's like 26 through 30, and he's getting paid like he is 15 through 10, and long-term, he might not even be the starting center because Christian Koloko has high upside. That guy moves like he's made out of fucking grease. His hips are made out of grease. He started most of their games this year. They just wanted to have a more experienced guy to make a playoff push this year. What in the world? So, like, 2 years from now, Christian Koloko might be starting over him, but you're going to be paying that fucking guy $20 million a year to sit on the bench. Oh, my God. Right. Jakob Poeltl, man. What? Like, Masai Ujiri, it's official. Bad GM. He is no longer what he used to be. Because in no world do you overpay Jakob Poeltl so much and instead of just not overpaying Jakob Poeltl, you just could have paid Fred VanVleet. If you were going to overpay, like, just beat Houston on their offer. I'm sure he would have stayed. Right? And it's just so stupid. So stupid. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to say this real quick. Did we actually ever think that Masai Ujiri was a good GM, or did we just go like, he got Kawhi Leonard. He got Kawhi Leonard. He got Kawhi Leonard on a lease, on a year lease.
He did help build the Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan. That's part of it too.
Okay, I'll give you that because they kept switching out, but they just couldn't get past Cleveland. So had they got past Cleveland, they would have been shown as a better team.
Yeah.
So I get you there. Yeah. I get you there. But let's start here. The reason why I think that they're number one on the losers is, why would you get rid of Fred VanVleet?
Exactly.
Why would you replace him with Strudel? Why would you do such a thing? I don't understand. I don't understand at all, because you have Fred VanVleet, who is like literally turning into like the guy in Toronto next to Pascal Siakam, right?
Yes.
And you get all these young guys, but if you were pushing, you just got rid of Nick Nurse, right? Yeah. So now you got a coach, and you're pushing for it's eventually like a playoff spot. You need good players. You need good seasoned veteran players.
Yeah.
Going forward, the Pascal Siakam Fred VanVleet connection was working. That was working. What didn't work was that you were being stupid during the drafting process and got some players that weren't fitting on the team, but you was like, I like their game, so I'm gonna put them here. And I'm like, but no, because like the Pascal Siakam Scotty Barnes thing, that doesn't work, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, but instead of, now you have, right, here's the problem here. The number one problem, right? You trade Fred VanVleet, you don't move off Pascal Siakam. Now you have a disgruntled superstar who wants to leave. Now he can leave, and you get nothing for him now, unless you move off of him, which I don't think you're smart enough to do at this point.
No.
Because you let go of Fred VanVleet for no daggone reason, and you should have just done it last year.
Yeah.
Last year, when he was on the chopping block, you should have just got rid of him instead of not paying him this year and let him walk.
Yes.
You could have traded him and got something, but instead you just let him walk, and now you got to pay Jakob Poeltl $80 million, and you got Dennis Schroeder for $20 million. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Smoking that weed.
Strudel is not. He's good, but he's like, you don't. That's not an upgrade.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's not an upgrade. You downgraded. You could have had Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam for at least another, let's say another 2-3 years if you want to do it, maybe, possibly 3-4 years, and then slowly, okay, look at the team, reevaluate, and build a team around them, and you could have made that playoff push, that title push, because they're still very young. These aren't players that are like on their way out the league. These are young players who still have a lot of time left, who can make that push when they're together.
Yeah.
But instead of making, if you were going to be like, okay, we're not going to keep you, we're going to trade you for, we're going to replace you, instead of getting something for him, considering what the market was looking like for Fred VanVleet, why didn't we just trade him off, package him with Pascal, and send him somewhere else?
Yeah. Agreed.
Or trade them both to do 2 different teams, and then just go in on our young talent. Like, we have a lot of young talent. We're looking very promising. We're gonna tank this year, get a good pick, and keep trying to build through the draft. Fine. But no. Jakob Poeltl got $80 million.
Yeah.
But you couldn't pay Fred VanVleet 120?
Yeah.
Number one loser.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, we go ahead.
Okay, so I don't think there's a lot of teams that had some bad signings and then had some good signings that are kind of like middle of the road. So I think we should just take it team for team now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first team on the list is the Clippers. They gained KJ Martin, high, good dunking, rotational power forward. May not never touch the NBA floor. Russell Westbrook, 2-year, $8 million. Mason Plumlee, 1 year, $5 million, and they lost Eric Gordon, and they lost 2 second-round draft picks. So, I definitely think retaining Russell Westbrook was important. Even if they do get James Harden, he'll be a great backup point guard. You know what I mean? So I feel like they made really good moves for, and they are still trying to be in trade talks. So there's a lot of things undecided about this free agency time frame for them, but I think they did a good job so far. What do you think, Chris?
I think the good part about this is that they kept Russell Westbrook. I think that's we saw some flashes of old Russ while he was with the Clippers. We saw like him being able to pass the ball, really facilitate very well. Something that they really need there, especially with you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And they're still in free agency talks to possibly land James Harden.
Yeah.
So that looks fun.
Yeah.
Or did he sign already?
No, not yet.
I didn't miss that.
No trade yet.
Okay. I was to make sure I didn't miss that. Okay, yeah. So he's a possibility they could possibly lock down James Harden, and then you have Russ, James, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. Now, I know I'm not a really big on super teams, but I think that James Harden and Russ have declined enough that it looks that I would be okay with that team. Yeah. They're not at their MVP levels right now, so I will be okay with that team being in LA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, that's another super team. Like I don't really see that as a super team at this point. I'm not saying they're role players. No, not at all. But I wouldn't be mad at that team if that was the team that they built. Yeah. I mean, and they actually did open up a lot of that opened up a lot of space, but they didn't have to pay. They got Russell Westbrook cheap.
Yeah.
They got Plumlee cheap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they still have a lot of money to be able to throw around if James Harden was to be interested in the Clippers. So, I like the signings. I like Russ back to the Clippers, give him another year with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Hopefully, all three of them can stay very healthy because I would like to see what that team looks like when healthy because we haven't yet to see that team healthy. So, completely healthy. So, I think they only did Russ for 2 years because I think they're eventually going to try to move off of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard if things don't turn around.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. You ready to kick it to the next team?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me choose one here. I want to talk about. Let's talk about the Grizz.
Okay.
The Grizzlies. Okay. So, signing Derrick Rose, signing Marcus Smart, awesome, right? I think those are awesome signings. Especially because we have Ja Morant, who is similar to Derrick Rose, so kind of like I think that would be a nice. Okay, I come from the same place. I'm a veteran. I've been here before. I know what it's like to play at the highest level.
Yeah.
So that's a good veteran leadership thing, kind of mentor, mentee type relationship that he can develop with Ja Morant and put him on the right path because Derrick Rose has turned his life around, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and I think that also signing Desmond Bane for 5 years, $206 million, that's good too as well because we've seen what Ja Morant and Desmond Bane can do on the floor together when they're paired together and the type of magic they can make as far as scoring. So, awesome. I love that. And they lost Dillon Brooks. I love that as well. I mean, I think that maybe it was a confidence thing. I could see maybe like once he was drawing too much at LeBron and LeBron started showing him up and he learned that he is levels. I think he kind of lost his confidence a little bit. So hopefully he can regain his confidence in Houston. So I'm not mad at the trade. I wouldn't say that they kind of lost. I wouldn't say they won. I would kind of agree with the middle of the road that we're going down right now because they did gang Derrick Rose. That's, he's Derrick Rose, so I think that's a nice veteran thing. I think that Marcus Smart fits the Grizzlies. so well because he's really a hard nosed defender, you know what I mean, in your face kind of guy. And I think that's perfect for that type of especially as a backup point guard to Ja Morant. I think that's like perfect for that. So I like the Grizzlies going forward. I think that, once Derrick Rose and Ja Morant can really like talk, maybe they can kind of figure something out and kind of get him back on the right path. So I think that the Derrick Rose signing is more of a leadership, veteran leadership, mentor, mentee type of thing. But I think the Marcus Smart signing is more like, okay, this will make us, better. So I like those both.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, so signings wise and overall, going into next year, I definitely agree with you that Derrick Rose signing was very important. They definitely desperately needed a veteran voice. Getting a guy who used to be an MVP at the same position that Ja Morant is, a similar play style, is extremely important to try to do the best job that they can do to put the vets around him to lead him back down the path of superstardom and being a non-distraction off the court.
Yeah.
The Desmond Bane signings pretty okay. I like the fact that they retained him. He definitely makes a lot of sense next to Ja Morant. In theory, losing Dylan Brooks, they already said that they were going to lose him, so going back on it now makes no sense. But I do think that this Memphis Grizzlies team, as constructed, will not be as good as last year's team. Because I understand it may sound like, really? Why? Okay, let me tell you why. Ja Morant can't defend to save his life. And Desmond Bane is a worse defender. So they did sign Marcus Smart, who is a phenomenal guard defender who can be very great at guarding. He can be very good at guarding small forwards. But if he's going to be out there and he's going to be forced to guard the small forward, then what was the point of signing him? Because he should be in a situation where he'd be good guarding the guards, right? So then, still, when they face the Golden State Warriors, for example, who's guarding Steph, right? Ja Morant? Okay, that's easy. Like, Dylan Brooks is worse, right? Okay, if you throw Marcus Smart on, this is the issue. You throw Marcus Smart on Steph Curry or the opposing team's best guard. Okay, well then Ja Morant or Desmond Bane has to guard their small forward, who's going to be 6'6", 6'7", right? And Ja Morant is 6'2", 6'3". Desmond Bane is 6'2", right? So they can't do that, right? So it's a defensive liability to move Marcus Smart and have him guard anybody other than the small forward position. And then if you're thinking, okay, well, they can get away with it because next year they'll have Steven Adams and then they'll have Jaren Jackson Jr., so Jason, why do we have to be worried? Because we could throw Jaren Jackson Jr. at the likes of a KD, at the likes of a LeBron James, at the likes of an Andrew Wiggins. Oh, what's the worry? Okay, the worry is Jaren Jackson Jr. just won a DPOY by being free safety. He didn't win a DPOY by being Kawhi and guarding the forward position, right? So if he needs, and if he's forced to guard the forward position, you can just have him sit in the corner and not do anything. Because his greatness is playing in space and getting shot blocks and covering a ton of ground and being a shot blocker at the rim, defending the perimeter and just guarding everywhere. That's the best version of Jaren Jackson Jr. Won a DPOY last year because he had a Dylan Brooks at the small forward position that allowed him to do his job and guard that best forward on the other the other team's player, and to allow Jaren Jackson to have the comfort to be able to do his role. So they defensively just went downhill, in my opinion. Because even though Marcus Smart's a great defender, limiting him to just being a small forward defender makes no sense to me. Because if you're going to ask him to guard guards, they're going to get ran through at whoever's guarding the small forward. And defensively, I think they got worse. Even though their talent is better. Because, Marcus Smart, say what you will about Dylan Brooks, he's 6'7". You can't replicate 6'7", right? And that was his role, guard that wing. You know what I mean? And in situations where the other team didn't have good wings, they would guard the guard. But we're talking about trying to win an NBA championship with Memphis. You're going to be facing the best teams.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say to Denver, for example. Right? Okay, if you have Marcus Smart guard Jamal Murray, who's guarding Michael Porter Jr.? Who's guarding KCP?
Yeah.
Who's, you know what I mean? And it's tough. Like, you know what I mean? And the Phoenix Suns, dear goodness. You have Marcus Smart guard Devin Booker. Who's guarding Kevin Durant? Who's guarding Bradley Beal? You know what I mean? Like, you're guarding the
Yeah.
Lakers. Okay, you have Jaren Jackson Jr. guarding LeBron, and we have Marcus Smart guarding D'Lo. Okay, who's guarding Austin Reeves? Who's guarding? You know what I mean? Like, these NBA championship level teams in the West have a guy at every position. Don't even get me started on the Golden State Warriors. You have Marcus Smart guard guard Steph. Who the hell's guarding Clay? Who the hell's guarding Wiggs? Right? You know what I mean?
True.
So these elite teams got guys everywhere, and the Memphis Grizzlies just, even though they have great individual talents, because of the limitations of Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, I think they'll go downhill offensively.
Okay. All right. I agree with that. Your pick.
My pick about team that I want to talk about. All right, there is a team that I definitely want to talk about. Let me bring them up real quick here. So I'm so confused at what they're doing. The Atlanta Hawks. They gained Rudy Gay, 1 year, $6.4 million. They re-signed DeJounte Murray to a 4-year, $220 million deal. Patty Mills, they lost Usman Garuba, Ty Washington, Rudy Gay in a trade, and a second-round draft pick to get Patty Mills. And they also traded John Collins for Rudy Gay and a second-round draft pick to move off of his contract. I have no clue what the Atlanta Hawks are doing because I thought they were getting prepared to win basketball games. Because who the hell is playing the 4? like Onyeka Ongaku? Like, he's the backup center that can't shoot at all? Like, what body do they have there? They have nobody. Are they maybe going to play small ball and put Bogdanovich at the 3 and DeAndre Hunter at the 4 and Clint at the 5? I guess that could make sense, but, like, who are they defending? Because Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Bogdan Bogdanovic and DeAndre Hunter, that's Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic can't guard to save their lives, right? So
yeah,
that's a tough fit, you know what I mean? And I don't know what they're doing, because even though DeAndre Hunter may, in theory, sound great at that, small forward, but he doesn't play half the season, right? He's always hurt, so it's hard to rely on him as well. So I just don't know what they're doing. I don't really get it. I don't understand it. They might be taking small ball a little too far because when you talk about the East, man, physical teams win in the East, right? That's the competition you got to deal with. And if you're going to go small ball to an extreme in the East, I just don't think it's going to work. So I'm very confused what Atlanta's doing. What do you think about that?
I would say the same. I would be confused as well because the teams in the East all have centers, like true centers. Like they have where they have really tall forwards and stuff like that. So if you want to go small, you can't go small against Giannis. You can't go small against a Jared Jackson. You can't. I mean, not Jared Jackson, Jared Allen. You can't go small against Embiid. You can't go small against those types of teams. So what are you doing? Especially if you don't have enough height. And and you're trying to go small because the signings just don't quite make sense. So I know we're talking middle of the road, but I would say Atlanta is pretty much a loser at this point. I mean, they got off of John Collins, so that was I wasn't surprised about that. I was like, okay, cool. What are you doing now? And then they don't really do much. So I would consider them a just straight up and down loser. Atlanta Hawks lost.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that makes this work is Christian Wood.
Yeah, if they were to get him, but he's not. He hasn't signed yet anywhere.
Well, let's see where he goes. Christian Wood could help a lot of teams.
Yeah, he's a walking double-double.
All right. My team that I want to talk about, you are going to be very surprised about this take, Chris. The Milwaukee Bucks. So they gained Chris Middleton, $102 million deal, 3 years. Brook Lopez on a 2-year, $48 million deal. They retained Jay Crowder on a 1-year deal. They signed Robin Lopez from free agency. They also got Malik Beasley. And they lost Javon Carter on a 3-year, $20 million deal. Joe Ingles on a 2-year, $22 million deal. And the reason why I'm talking about them, and I'm going to surprise you on this, Chris, I am trending a little lower on the Bucks. So part of the reason why they found so much success last year was the overwhelming defense. And part of that came from that Jrue Holiday, Javon Carter defensive rotation was just beyond scary, right? And I understand that they couldn't overpay like Chicago did for, what he is as a player, but he was hugely important to adding on to the ridiculous defensive identity, right? And on top of that, they also lost an important rotational three-point shooting piece at the small forward position. Because at the guard position, they already have Grayson Allen. They already have Jrue Holiday. So them adding Malik Beasley, even though he's a pretty good name, it's not like he's going to get a ton of minutes. He's a pretty solid three-point shooter, but he doesn't give you much more other than that. And the reason why I think this team can go downhill is they are a team that if anybody decreases in their output even a little bit, they just won't have the same formula that has led to success for so long. And this team is aging. Brook Lopez is going to be 36 next year. A lot of this team relies on his defensive ability, right? And if he goes downhill a little bit more, then this team's not going to be able to defend as well. And you add Javon Carter losing, then that's going downhill a little bit. Jrue Holiday is going to be 34 next year. How long is he going to be able to? Because he's not the kind of guy that's, just like Brook Lopez, great athletes can play longer and have more of a similar effect on the basketball game as time goes on. But Jrue Holiday's never been considered a great athlete. Brook Lopez has never been considered a great athlete. You know what I mean? And Jrue Holiday is going to be 34 next year. And Chris Middleton is going to be 32 next year. Right? Like, any decrease in Jrue Holiday's ability to not be an all-NBA defender anymore. Maybe he's just a good defender. And, it's the same thing with Brook Lopez. And they lost some depth. That defensive depth. Javon Carter was a big hit. You know what I mean? Jay Crowder is going to be 35 next year, and he also hasn't really played meaningful minutes in a minute. I mean, it's been like 2 years now. So we haven't really seen Jay Crowder in a while play a lot of meaningful minutes and be what he used to be in Phoenix. So it's tough. They lost some pieces, and there is some age questions that I'm going to have to see them play in the regular season to answer. Because I definitely could see Jrue Holiday going downhill a little bit. And, this team is great, but their scoring comes from basically Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Jrue Holiday. And their great defense comes from Giannis, Brook Lopez, and Jrue Holiday, and Jay Crowder, right? But it used to be Javon Carter, right? And they used to have such a great depth of three-point shooters. And them losing a guy like Joe Ingles does lose some of that depth. So I do think that they've lost something. And you add on the new head coach, I wouldn't be surprised if the Milwaukee Bucks, even if healthy, don't make the Eastern Conference Finals next year because of decreasing talent.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The losing of switching coaches for, and not having Budenholzer anymore and bringing the new coach in and then revamping his, he has to do another offense, create another offense around Giannis that supports that uses all the supporting cast. I can see it going downhill. Absolutely right. People are getting older on that team. The team is aging. And then you lose some of your defensive scoring capabilities when you lose Javon Carter, and then you haven't really seen much of Jay Crowder to really be like, okay, we're going to depend on Jay Crowder now. You haven't really seen much of him in the past, year or so that you can really be like, okay, this is it going forward. This is the team that we're going to roll out. I kind of agree with you. It's a surprising take for sure, but now that you've explained it, I agree with it because I can see the Bucks not performing as good as they did last year and kind of underperforming this year and kind of losing the teams that they would normally beat and things like that. Like, yeah, you have Giannis still. He's still young. He's still hungry. He's still, a great player in the league. But if the supporting cast isn't adding up and if anybody on that team takes just a small step back, it's going to be detrimental to the entire team. So I mean, yeah, they re-signed, but I mean, I just don't. I'm not really super big on the Bucks going forward. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a not a Giannis issue, but you need complementary pieces to win a ring, and their complementary pieces are
Exactly.
aging. You know what I mean? It's just a natural thing. And there's gonna come a point in time where they're just not gonna be able to support him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's your next team?
Let's go with do 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 do. Let's go with the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, that's what I want to talk about next. Go for it, Chris. We needed to talk about this. Yeah, go.
Yeah. So I think that they've done some things to kind of make themselves more to with the signing of Bradley Beal, they got a lot deeper and they got a lot more shooting, a lot more people to depend on. They got Eric Gordon, which I guess is kind of they're gonna sub him in for CP3 and have him be the starting point guard. I guess I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that point of things. They got better defensively. They got Josh Okogie. They got some scoring. They got Yuta Watanabe who can shoot lights out. They got a lot of scoring, but then the point guard position, it looks really weird. Because I don't know. Like, yeah, you got all these weapons now, but who's passing the ball? That's my biggest question here. Who is passing the ball? You got more defense, you got more scoring, but Eric Gordon's old. He didn't get many minutes last year. Like, is he going to be your primary passer? Is he the one you're expecting to go to battle against, like, the minds of Nikola Jokic and be like, yeah, we can win this chess battle? Like, that's not going to happen. So I don't dislike the picks. I just think they could have done. I mean, considering what they're paying, maybe they could have gotten somebody else other than Eric Gordon who might have been a little bit better basketball IQ wise. But I'm not completely mad at it because they added a lot of depth with the money that they had left. But Eric Gordon, and then you just like that. Their thought process right now in Phoenix is we have so many weapons. It doesn't matter who we have at point guard. All they have to do is pass the ball. And I'm just like, that's not going to win you anything. That's not going to work. Yeah. I don't agree with that. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we get to hate on the same team together. It's the two of us, man, against the world, because everybody is like, oh my god, the best free agency signings is Phoenix. Oh my god, this GM's so good. Okay, goddamn, like, I get it. Fanboys rejoice. Drew Eubanks is a solid rotational forward. I like Keita Bates-Diop. He can really defend. He's 6'8", shoots a 3, 2-year, $5 million. Damian Lee's a rotational guard. Chinmay Metu is a really solid rotational center. May never start, though. Yuta Watanabe, sure. Can he shoot a 3? Sure, yeah. Josh Okogie can defend, right? Eric Gordon is a rotational 2 guard that I don't think we'll see much minutes because of Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, but they lost Jock Landale. That's not going to really affect them. They also like Torrey Craig. That's also not really going to affect them. But, dude, like, passing, because people don't understand. They have Cameron Artis-Payne. He's a point guard. Okay, well, have you ever watched Cameron Artis-Payne play? What does he do, Chris?
He scores.
Exactly. He gets to the rim, and he plays in the pick and roll, and he scores. He is a below average point guard passer at best. At best. You want to know why? Because they wanted to find a guard that gave them a different look than Chris fucking Paul, because he was Chris fucking Paul, okay? That's what that was, right? Cameron Artis-Payne is not a passer, okay? First things first, how is DeAndre Ayton affecting the game? Where is he going to get his touches from? Where's the pick and roll going to come from? Where is he going to get, like, people don't understand. Like, we keep on talking about this, is Kevin Durant against the Boston Celtics when he was forced to pass. He showed that guy still can't fucking pass. I don't care how nice his assist numbers look. I don't care how good he looks on his highlight tapes. That guy's a walking turnover issue. Okay, just like the Clippers when they try to force everything through Kawhi and Paul George. And Devin Booker's an above average shooting guard passer, but he's a below average point guard passer. Their NBA championships teams need to be complete. They need to have every aspect of basketball. And this team doesn't have anything to do with passing. They will be a turnover machine. They will be terrible. And they have all these shooters. But what people aren't realizing is for the NBA shooters to do their job, they need to get passes in situations at ball placement to be able to get their shots off in the NBA. Because if the pass is a little low, it's a little left, it's a little right, it's a little high, like these passers like KD and Devin Booker and Cameron Artis-Payne will be doing, they have to take extra time to shoot. Okay, and NBA players are ridiculously athletic. They cover a shit ton of ground, and that will really matter when they try to shoot threes off ball, because those ball placement won't be perfect. And that really allows it's commonplace. Every team has a guy that's passing that sets everything up beautifully. It's like if you saw that guy in prison, like Jesus Christ, you can throw that pass literally on a dime on somebody's hand every single time. Like they have nobody like that. They have no initiator. They have no passer. This team will not make the Western Conference Finals. I'm saying it now. No, not a chance. Also, if they had the money to sign all these guys, you couldn't have gotten a point guard. Like, seriously, you needed more three-point shooting. I didn't know you need more three-point shooting when you have Devin fucking Booker, Bradley Beal, KD. Man, when you have those three guys, I really feel like you need a lot of shooting. Like, bro, what are you smoking? What are you smoking? They just signed big names. They signed guys that, man, I love the way this guy shoots the ball on the three-point line. 6'8". It's not like we have like a bunch of forwards already, and like Frank Vogel's gonna have a fucking aneurysm trying to figure out how to coach this team offensively,
right?
Because he can't. So yeah, man, I agree with you. I'm so glad you brought this on, so we can hate. Terrible job.
Yeah, terrible.
They had one job to get one guy, and they didn't do it.
Terrible.
Don't blame me when you don't win a ring.
Right. Don't blame me. Right. You're up.
All right, this is what I want to talk about, definitely. This is a big team. We're definitely going to both talk about this team. Golden State Warriors. They got Draymond Green back for a year, $100 million. I'm glad that the Golden State Warriors didn't overthink this. Right?
Yeah.
They desperately need Draymond Green. He's so important to initiating their offense. He's so important with the chemistry he has with Steph and Clay to allow them to play at their best. They can't win rings without him. They added Corey Joseph, who's a really solid three-point shooting guard. They needed a body. They lost Ty Jerome, which I don't think is going to make a big difference. They did lose Dante DiVincenzo, which may on paper look bad, but that man got paid $50 million, and I highly doubt the Golden State Warriors were going to pay him that much, or even be able to pay him that much.
That's true.
So, but, one reason I really want to talk about the Warriors is I heard Draymond Green talk on a podcast, and he brought up a few things about Chris Paul that I didn't think about when we first signed him. Is they had an issue last year with Steph, Poole, and Clay, where the way the Golden State Warriors want to beat other teams was three-point shooting, right? And everybody knew, okay, we got to stop the three ball because this is what they do. They don't really have anybody else that throws anything different at you, even though they're world-class at it. Chris Paul is a mid-range shot creator, right? They don't really have a guy that does that other than Wiggins every once in a while. So that's going to be extremely important to give a nice little change-up to get a few points a game. Just like Sean Livingston gave him that nice little change-up as that mid-range scoring guard. So he's going to be able to do that similarly to kind of give them a different look. Defensively, he's great. And, one thing that Draymond did mention that I definitely agree with now that I think about it is that bench desperately needs a guy like CP3. Desperately needs an elevator, right? And, you know what I mean? And their bench was really bad last year, even though they had Jordan Poole on it. They just didn't mesh. That's because Jordan Poole's trying to score. He's not the kind of guy that's going to make your 6 through 10 all their best version of themselves. But with CP3 there, he's gonna make everybody better. You know, and I definitely think that they have young pieces that still can grow, right? And I'm glad that they allowed them to have the space on the roster. Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, who might have grown, we don't know how much too. Having CP3 to accentuate them and help them develop and grow, it's gonna be really important. So I do think that this Golden State Warriors team, I think they can surprise some people. I think that they are back in the ring talk. I think we got to put them back in there because that passing that CP3 has, man, has a lot of potential with the Warriors offense. And he kind of does. He is the change up, right? He doesn't play anything like CP3 in play, right? So I like it. Yeah, I think the Warriors are going somewhere. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like it too. Because that's actually a big thing I love that you mentioned Shaun Livingston because I can still see it now. Him, everybody was shooting threes and he just takes that one dribble in, knocks down a mid range and goes
Nothing
back.
you can do about it.
He just backs you down, makes a mid range shot and go back down. He has like 20 points off mid range. It's just nothing you can do about it. And I can see that like on a different level with CP3 because he loves the mid-range shot. He can also see the floor better. They have a true point guard, the guy who can pass, and that's what they need. They can sit him around like Curry and Clay, and he can like really like see the floor in a different way and really get the shooters involved like they want to be. And then another thing is that I saw that podcast as well where he was like, I seen what CP3 was able to do with DeAndre Ayton. I wonder if he can do that with Kuminga.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. If they can hold on to Jonathan Kuminga and he can be next, and they can hold him next to CP3, I would love to see what that pick and roll with that 10 can create. I would love to see that because CP3 is the kind of point guard that can elevate those around him. He can elevate 6 through 12. He can make them the best version of themselves with his passing.
Agreed.
So. And getting everybody involved. So that's an awesome pickup. Like, yes, you lost some shooting and scoring ability with Dante DiVincenzo. The other ones don't really matter. But with adding the CP3, that puts you back, and I absolutely agree, into the championship conversation. Because now now you have a guy on your team that you can put the ball in their hands, you could trust him to make decisions.
Yeah.
And that's big, especially passing. Passing has always been really big in the league. So I love it. I love the CP3 pickup.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. This Warriors team definitely has the juice to make it back. I agree.
Yeah. Let's see here. There's a lot of teams on here.
Oh no. Really quickly, like what New Orleans did, re-signing Garrett Temple. Herb Jones is such a great 3-and-D guy for them. Defends really well. Cody Zellers also could be a nice backup to Jonas Valanciunas because he does post. Them re-signing EJ Liddell, Ohio State alum. Losing Jackson Hayes, who was kind of like a question mark that couldn't really find a fit on the Pelicans. So I like what they did really quickly.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm sure we both want to talk about Houston.
Houston? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so just to recap for everybody, Fred VanVleet went to the Houston Rockets. So did Dillon Brooks. Let's bring it up here. Yeah, Fred VanVleet got a 3-year, $130 million deal. Dillon Brooks got a 4-year, $180 million. They also signed Jaden McDaniels. They received 2 second-round draft picks, Jake Landale, and they lost KJ Martin, who, honestly, I think he might be out of the league in 3 years, so it's okay. No shade. I'm just saying that he's close to being out the league. I'll say this. Houston, people may think, why did they sign guys that are more developed for the Houston Rockets when they have a young core? They might be thinking that. And let me explain this to you. This Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets have decided to believe in a philosophy. And that philosophy is paying for vets to show these guys the way is more important than allowing everybody to have the space to get the most amount of minutes as possible. And there has been a lot of reports that guys like KBJ and Jalen Green may have not have been taking the NBA seriously, right? Or maybe something along those lines of there's been a lot of speculation that some of the Houston young pieces may not be taking the NBA and development as seriously as they should. Or you know what I mean? So having Fred VanVleet, who's an NBA champion, you get to watch him every night. He's going to be the leader. He's going to show you the way. He understands how to be a winner. Because again, NBA champion. He understands toughness. He's extremely intelligent. You also get to have him on the floor and be the best player on the team. Well, him or Jalen Green, but we're going to get to have him on the floor showing you the way. And on top of everything else, you get to see him work because that guy is a 6 foot, straight up 6 foot point guard that's not overly athletic, that's made a phenomenal career for himself. There's no way that somebody does that without having an incredible work ethic because it's got to come from developing skill to an extreme degree. So they get to see how he works every day, and he gets to show them the way and be the extremely important vet. So I really like that. And they added Dillon Brooks for a specific reason. I think it is to be the defensive leader, right? Ime Udoka really believes in defense, and it must be that he really believes that to teach defense, you need to have a leader that shows you the example to how to play defense, right? And Dillon Brooks is that type of guy. So I definitely think that some of the stuff, I think his situation with Memphis was overblown. It just went viral on TikTok. It was just fun to listen to it that he called LeBron James XYZ, but let's not act like for the past 4 years that he wasn't an extremely important piece to them winning. Let's not act like he didn't always guard the best player. Let's not act like he didn't do his role. Just like Marcus Morris, I don't remember exactly what he said, but when he was with the Boston Celtics, he said something that made no sense. Like maybe I shut down LeBron James or something like that. You know what I mean? Like these defensive guys in the NBA have egos, okay?
Yeah.
It's not ridiculously abnormal what Dillon Brooks is. So I think that he's there to be the defensive leader and example, energy-wise, intensity-wise, focus on detail-wise, to have everybody lead and follow. So I definitely believe that that's what they believe in now, and it shows through their signings, and I'm glad that they did it. And on top of everything else, Fred VanVleet's only going to be there for 3 years, right? And then they can move on with the young core. But yeah, I like what they did here. I feel like they understand what they want to do, and they are executing.
Yeah. I like what the Houston Rockets did as well. Adding Fred VanVleet is big. Adding Dillon Brooks is big. You pretty much hit the nail on the head with both of these guys when you're talking about Fred VanVleet being the veteran that you need him to be. He won a championship. He knows what it takes to win, what it means to be a winner, what it means to work hard. Because I think he was undrafted, so he had to work his way up into this. Like he wasn't a star. He wasn't drafted. And nobody really believed in him, and they took a shot on him in Toronto, and he became a star there. Second best player on the team when they won the championship, honestly. So he's going to be the best player on this team. He's really going to be able to put those young guys under his wing and be like, okay, look, this is what it takes to win. This is what it takes to be a champion. This is what it takes to reach the highest of highs. You know what I mean? In our league. So, and especially with Dillon Brooks, like, yes, we may have all laughed about poking the bear and I don't expect nobody till he dropped 40 on me and all this other stuff. But we cannot deny that Dillon Brooks has been that guy defensively for the Memphis Grizzlies, and they're definitely going to miss him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Houston is gonna definitely appreciate the fact that they signed him. Like, yeah, he got $80 million. People are like, oh, it's too much. But scoring aside, what he was able to do defensively for that team, what he'll be able to do defensively for Houston will be big. Ime is definitely a defensive coach, but he also understands the offensive side. So I think that the Dillon Brooks pickup is perfect for that kind of coach because he's going to want Dillon Brooks to, okay, look, I'm a defender. We want us all to defend together. Look at me. Watch what I do. See how I do it at such a high level and then mimic. Yeah. So it's going to be perfect for that as well. I think that these are two great signings. Houston looks better and better as free agency goes on. So I am excited to see how they look. Yes, they're still young. But and everybody's pretty young. I mean, VanVleet is pretty young still. Dylan Brooks is pretty young still. So I think that, hey, like give it like 3 years or so, we might be talking about them in a different type of light. We might be talking about them like, yeah, they're about to win the East, or they could possibly win a championship. So they're building definitely in the right direction. So I love that.
Yeah, I really agree with you, man. I feel like this was a culture defining week for them. You said they defined their culture, and that's the way they're gonna try to develop this young talent, and I like it. Yeah.
All right.
Is there anything else you want to go over?
Oh, let's do Portland real quick, because I feel like the Dame situation is something that's big right now.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, Portland, before they found out that Dame was leaving, they signed Jeremy Grant, and they're still going to sign Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
That's good, you know what I mean, considering what he was able to do, you know what I mean, in Denver and and he had a good year. He did have a good year. He had
like 20-something a game, 22, 23 in a big.
Yeah, so that adds more scoring depth. I mean, I guess now that you know that Dame wants to leave, you really lock into, you know, your young talents, so your Anthony Simons, your Shaedon Sharps, your Scoot Hendersons. Those are the kind of guys that you really lean into now, and you have Jeremy Grant, who has some kind of veteran, you know, presence in the locker room, who can give you, you know, some insights on what it takes to win and how to build a championship, and how to have a championship mindset, because that's really big in the league, especially if you want to win.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like the pickup. Now off to Dame. Dame has requested a trade. He wants to go to Miami. Like there's no other team he wants to go to. He just wants to be in Miami. He doesn't want to do anything else. His agent has been talking and saying like, "Hey, listen, if you guys sign him and he's not going to Miami, he's gonna be mad. He's not going to summer league. I mean, he's not going to training camp. He's gonna be pissed off. You're gonna have a disgruntled superstar on your hand who will not play." And everybody's like, "Wait a second, we don't want to touch that with 100-foot pole." But then, but Portland's like, "But we want something good in return, and Tyler Hero is not good enough for us. You have to give us something else." And Miami's not gonna give up Tyler Hero and Bam, because you need Bam and Dame to play together. Like, you want that to happen. So they don't have enough. And Portland's like, we'll just keep him. Like, at this point. And I don't know how this is going to end with the free agency thing. This is very weird, because they already said that Miami didn't have enough for them. They want at least 2 good stars and some picks. And I don't think Miami has enough to trade for him at this point. They have money. They can pay him, but they can't trade for him.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Man, when it comes down to this trade, it's definitely something where I agree with you that, you know, Dame and his agent are trying to force them to get traded to Miami. Because he doesn't have a no trade clause. They did a really good job of signing him to a deal when they signed him to a 4-year deal, to try to not have him on an expiring contract where he would have more leverage anyway, right? And you know, Portland in the front office, the moves they made, they've been wanting to move on from him too, right? They've been wanting to go young. They've been wanting to hit the restart button, and they want to get a huge package back for Dame, which is understandable, right? But the market is just not there. Like, there is no superstar young guy that's on a team that, if they trade for Dame, that will be ready to win a championship. So it has to be a 3-team deal. If Portland doesn't want Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, you know what I mean. So it's gonna take a while to figure it out. I do think that, you know, the only place that I think if I'm Dame, I would really think about would be Boston. I mean, I don't think they're going to move off Jaylen Brown, right? But I could see that happening, because it would be an easier fit with Jaylen Brown, with Dame and Jason Tatum. Like, they would fit better. But Just because of the age, Jaylen Brown might be the guy to stick with. But I really do think that Dame, even the other trade options of the Clippers and, the 76ers, but the 76ers, I mean, Tyrese Maxey doesn't really get me out of my bed and be like, oh my goodness, Tyrese Maxey's perfect fit. The tough thing about it is they have Scoot and Anthony Simmons, so it's tough. And I honestly think Tyler Hero is a better player than Maxey because Maxey really didn't show up in the playoffs. And so yeah, man, I feel like where it's probably gonna end up at the end is Miami. They're both playing hardball with each other. It's trade negotiations, and Portland's trying to show other teams that they're willing to take their time with the trade. But it's not like Dame's gonna play in the season. Like he's not playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, they're gonna get some. It might be like last year when the Ben Simmons trade, right? With Ben Simmons around the same time requested a trade, and he didn't get traded until halfway through the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Portland's a little delusional about the package that they can get for Dame because it's just not many options. So it's tough. So yeah.
Especially because he made it so clear that he wanted to play for Miami, so that throws all the chips off the table. I mean, as he should, but that throws all the other chips off the table. The Portland has no leverage going forward. Like, it's either trade him to Miami or trade him to Miami. Like, that's all you have.
I mean, Miami has some good rotational young pieces as well that they can throw in the trade with Nikola Jovic. Even though I don't believe in Jaime Jaquez, but if Portland does, you know what I mean? Like, there's some young pieces there that could be interesting, right? With time, and I don't know, man. It's tough. I think a 3-team deal is what it's going to end up being, and they're going to get the young pieces to send to Portland from another team, and but it's going to be interesting, man. It's definitely wait and see.
Very, very interesting.
Just like the James Harden thing.
What to expect? Yeah.
James Harden is probably going to be in the same boat. Daryl Morey likes to take his time. They probably are overvaluing James Harden anyway. You know what I mean? So Portland and Philly are overvaluing their players. And yeah. So
yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into this play-in tournament talk?
No, not at the moment. No.
Okay. So the NBA announced today or yesterday that they are going to have a mid-season tournament where they have 30 teams. If I remember correctly, they're going to break them up in 6 groups. They're going to play like each team twice within that group. The team that wins the most games within that group is going to be the final 6 teams, and the 2 teams with the best records out of like 15 teams are going to be the extra 2. So they're going to have 8 teams in a mid-season like March Madness style tournament, one win, 1 game win and done type of vibe. And they're going to count as regular season games. I think it's incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna win a cup, okay, and that means what? That doesn't mean you're the best team, right? Like that's not what it means. There's no meaning behind it. I understand it's a money grab, and will I have to watch it because of this podcast? Yes, but it's incredibly stupid because midway through the season, where some players may not be even still getting in the playing shape, and they might not still be gelling yet. Right, like, if I'm the Lakers, would I really want LeBron James playing at a playoff level intensity game midway through the season to try to win some cool cup that means absolutely fucking nothing? No, right? Not a chance. Phoenix, I'm not playing KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal during that time frame. All right, we will sit the 6 games that we lose, okay, and I'll be fine with it. Right? Like, it means nothing. It'll be fun to watch for the fans. Right? It'll be fun to watch, but it means absolutely nothing. And I think if I'm GM, I'm not letting these guys play in playoff intensity games that could lead to injuries down the line just to win some stupid cup. You know what I mean? So I disagree with what this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense to me either. You already have the play-in tournament, which actually means something. You know what I mean? Whether you get a spot in the playoffs or not.
Yeah.
Which is, I would prefer that. Now, if there was some kind of like, oh, like if you win this, you can move up, and you know what I mean. Like, I guess it goes toward the regular season standings, but I'm not gonna have you like. I
That'd be
absolutely agree.
interesting.
You risk injury. You risk injury. You know what I mean? You make it. You
Yeah.
can make it interesting. Like, okay, like if you win the cup, then you move up the standings and you lock in a spot. You know what I mean? Or
That'd be
something like that.
really
Like make it
interesting, yeah.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
Make it okay. You lock in a spot in the playoffs. You lock in a spot for this. You lock in a spot for this. Like no matter where you lock in a spot, that would be
Yeah.
make it better. But for the fact that you're just like, oh, you just won a cup and then we just continue on with the season, like I'm not going to play harder for a cup that doesn't do anything for me in the end. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like that. Am I gonna have a worthless achievement? Like, yeah, I won the cup 8 times in a row. Like that doesn't mean nothing. Like, who cares if you won the cup? Like nobody cares if you won the fucking cup. Like, just that doesn't mean anything. So it's like if they could make more, I guess, make it more worthwhile to the players and to the teams, then I guess I would see like, okay, I can understand it. But if it's just supposed to be mimicking like, you know, FIFA style, I mean not FIFA style, like soccer style, European soccer style tournaments, then I mean we already have the play in, we don't need that.
College basketball does have a similar setup where they will have a regular season conference champion, and then they'll do within their conference they'll have a tournament one game March Madness style for their conference tournament, and then there'll be a champion for the conference championship tournament, and then there'll be a champion for like the actual overall NCAA tournament. So they do have a similar thing, but you know what I mean.
But that means something though.
Yeah, right, and it historically means something. Like, oh my goodness, like 20 years from now, we're gonna have a debate. Like, man, Victor Wembanyama won 2 rings, but he won 4 cups. So, like, see Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, it puts historical debates into a stupid situation if this does develop meaning, right? Like, if we didn't have a cup, how the fuck are we supposed to compare, right?
If you're gonna have a cup or something like that, or some kind of like mid-season tournament, make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna make it like, okay, we got to play these games, make it worthwhile. So like in college football, right? Like they have like the Big Ten championship, they have the different areas championship. Okay, this championship, and then they all can converge into the playoffs and then play for the big one. Like make it worth something. Like don't just make it okay. Look, you win a cup, and then we're gonna think about this historically. Like yeah, well, you know. LeBron during his last seasons, he won like 3 cups, but he only has like 5 rings. So like,
rings, fucking
like it's 8 rings now. Like the cup adds onto the rings. Like I don't want to have to do that. That's gonna make my head explode when I have to go like, yeah, well, like they won like 8 cups in a row, and I'm like, the cup doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Exactly.
The cup doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it might be more money. Maybe they might put an incentive. Oh, if we win the cup and it draws more people in, then you get it like $6 million more. Like, okay, big whoop. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not completely. It's finalized, but it's not completely finalized. Maybe they'll figure out some way to like incentivize it better. But as it is right now, I mean, like I have to watch it, but I don't want to.
Exactly, because we have this podcast.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It's dumb. Very dumb. Alrighty. Well, I just want to thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed our takes on some of the free agency stuff. Hopefully we will see something happen, you know, in the James Harden realm of trades going on, free agency deals. We might not see anything until before the All-Star break, but just know that we will be covering that, you know, as soon as it happens. You know, we have some, you know, some off-season stuff. You know, we're nearing the season, probably a couple months or so. So we have some off-season stuff that we're going to be speaking to you guys about, going to be sharing our takes on. So look out for that. Today is Sunday. So this episode will be dropping tomorrow, barring any technical difficulties or anything like that. You got anything you want to say, Jay?
Yeah, really quickly. Just to all those fans out there, I am going to guarantee you one thing. This basketball podcast will not cover the stupid summer league. It does not translate to the NBA at all. Guys like Randy Foye, Nate Robinson, Jared Bayless have won the MVP of this summer league in the past. Okay, this means nothing. Don't expect us to cover it. I don't care. This doesn't translate to basketball at all. As a basketball podcaster, I have to make decisions on what basketball content I watch, and I will lose brain cells and negatively get impacted by watching the summer league. So we will not be covering it because it does not translate to NBA basketball at all. I don't want to hear any questions. I don't care who looked bad, who looked good, because there's a gazillion guys that are in the NBA Hall of Fame that are going to be in the Hall of Fame that did bad, right? And there's a gazillion guys that are playing in Europe right now that did great. So that's what I would like to say about that really quick. We will not talk about it at all. Zero.
No summer league talks. All right, guys. I'm Chris Muhammad.
I'm Jason Collins.